There comes a time in every life when the storms rage without warning, when the ground beneath your feet begins to crack, when the people you thought would hold your hand are the first to let it go. You stand there, not because you are unbreakable, but because breaking is not an option anymore. And in that moment, something deep inside whispers to you, act as if nothing affects you. Not because you're numb, not because you don't feel, but because you have learned that peace is a decision, not a reaction. It's not about pretending that life hasn't thrown bricks at your chest. It's about deciding that you will not build your identity around the rubble. Yes, it hurt. Yes, they disappointed you. Yes, it should have gone differently. But this right here is where you rise, not because everything is okay, but because you refuse to let it destroy you. To act as if nothing affects you is not to silence your soul. It is to give your soul space to speak above the noise. There is power in stillness and grace in restraint. There's a wisdom that comes when you stop responding to everything, because not everything deserves your energy. Not every battle is yours to fight. Some things were designed to distract you, to drain you, to derail you from destiny. But when you walk like peace is your inheritance, the storms have no place to land. You see, people will call it arrogance when they can't explain your calm. They will call it fake when they can't comprehend your strength. But they don't know the nights you laid in bed with tears soaking your pillow, whispering prayers you weren't sure would be heard. They don't know the inner wars you fought in silence, the doubts you wrestled with when no one was watching. So don't you dare shrink to fit their narrative. Walk boldly, not because the road is clear, but because your steps are ordered. There is a difference. You have to learn to carry peace like a weapon. You have to learn to wear your silence like armor. This world will poke at your insecurities, prod at your pain, provoke your peace just to see if you'll break. But when you act as if nothing affects you, you are not pretending, you are proclaiming, I know who I am. Because the truth is, you will be misunderstood, you will be talked about, you will be underestimated, and you must be okay with it. Because elevation always exposes what was hidden. Light always draws both admiration and attack. But your job is not to explain your light. Your job is to keep shining, even when it feels like the darkness is winning. Even when your light flickers under the weight of it all. Keep shining. This journey will teach you that resilience isn't about bouncing back. It's about bending without breaking. It's about holding on when letting go seems easier. It's about smiling when you want to scream, standing when you want to collapse, showing up when you want to disappear. And through it all, you carry yourself as though the fire didn't touch you, because your scars have become symbols, not shackles. You become the kind of person who walks into the room and brings calm with you. Not because your life is perfect, but because your mind is anchored, because your heart is grounded, because your spirit is rooted in something deeper than circumstance. You're not moved by chaos anymore, because you've been through it and survived. You've cried the tears, you've had the breakdowns. But now you show up with the strength only pain could teach you. Acting as if nothing affects you doesn't mean you're emotionless. It means you've matured. You've learned that every reaction costs something, and you no longer pay the price for things that aren't aligned with your purpose. It's not that you don't care. It's that you care too much to give your energy to the temporary. You're focused on the eternal. You're focused on your assignment. You're focused on becoming who you were created to be. There is something holy about walking in peace when everything around you demands panic. There is something powerful about not clapping back, not proving your point, not defending your truth. When you've seen enough, lived enough, lost enough, you realize peace is expensive and protecting it is wisdom. You don't just walk in calm, you become it. Let them misunderstand you. Let them talk. Let them misjudge your silence for weakness. That's not your business. Your business is becoming. Your business is healing. Your business is rising. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to clear up every misconception. Let your life speak. Let your consistency speak. Let your fruit speak. Because there's something about a person who is unbothered, not out of pride, but out of purpose. When you live like this, you begin to understand that true power is quiet. It doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need a crowd. Power is walking through the fire with your head held high, knowing the flame can't consume what is already refined. Power is smiling through betrayal, knowing that what was meant to break you only made you bolder. Power is choosing not to react because you've learned that silence sometimes speaks louder than words ever could. You were never meant to fight every battle. Some battles are distractions dressed as duties, but when you act as if nothing affects you, you're choosing your battles wisely. You're no longer swayed by every opinion, every insult, every setback. You've learned the art of prioritizing peace. Because what good is progress if you're losing your soul to get it? What good is success if you're always on edge? The real flex is peace. The real strength is composure. And even when your heart breaks, and it will, even when your faith wavers, and it might, you still choose to show up like everything is working for you. Not because you're delusional, but because you understand the truth. All things are working together for your good. Even this, even now. Even the things that feel like they're crushing you are actually crafting you. So walk like you're already free. Smile like you already won. Speak like you know the outcome, because you do. Favor surrounds you, grace covers you, and purpose pulls you. There's no need to be shaken when you know who you are and who walks with you. The winds will blow, the waves will crash, but your anchor holds. Not because life is easy, but because you've been fortified by the fire. There is a stillness that comes after the storm has done its worst and found you still standing. There is a strength that comes from not needing to defend your position because your peace is evidence enough. You no longer chase validation. You no longer seek permission. You've learned to be enough for yourself. And that kind of self-knowing, that kind of inner security, it rattles the world. So yes, act as if nothing affects you, not because you're hiding, but because you're healed, not because you're pretending, but because you've prevailed. There's a quiet confidence in people who have met pain and survived it, who have stared down loss and learned to live again, who have buried dreams and found the courage to hope again. You carry that, and when you carry that, you don't need to prove a thing. You just keep walking. Let the world keep spinning. Let the noise keep rising. You stay still. You stay grounded. You stay focused. Because this life, it's not about how loud you roar. It's about how steady you stand. And when your peace becomes your priority, everything else will fall into place. You don't need the world to understand your journey. You just need to keep walking it. You don't need applause. You don't need affirmation. You don't need validation. You just need alignment. Because once you're aligned with who you were made to be, no attack can destroy you. No loss can define you. No setback can stop you. The peace you carry will protect you, guide you, and elevate you. So walk on, even if your legs shake. Smile, even if your heart aches. Speak life, even when the world around you feels heavy. And above all, act as if nothing affects you. Because what's inside you is stronger than anything outside you. Because you were built for this. Because you're becoming everything they never saw coming. And that is your power. There is something sacred about a person who has made peace with being misunderstood. When you've walked through enough fires, you no longer look for validation in eyes that cannot see the fullness of who you are. You stop offering explanations to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop bleeding for those who only want your story to make sense to them. When you act as if nothing affects you, it's not that you don't care, it's that you care too much about your healing to let anything jeopardize it. Let the world label you cold if they must. Let them assume You're distant. What they don't know is that silence became your language when chaos became too loud. What they don't realize is that your stillness was forged in storms they never had to survive. You don't need them to understand. You don't need them to approve. You've learned that inner peace is not a luxury, it's a necessity. And when you finally taste it, you'll protect it at all costs, even if it means walking away from things that once felt like home. And isn't that the hardest part? Releasing the things you prayed for, letting go of the hands you once held so tightly, watching dreams shift and relationships fade, not because you wanted them to, but because you've outgrown the version of you that needed them. And still you rise, still you move forward, not because it doesn't hurt, but because your healing means more than your history. There's a deep courage in quiet perseverance, in waking up day after day, choosing growth when comfort keeps calling you back, choosing truth when lies would be easier to live with, choosing joy when grief still lingers in the corners of your soul. This kind of strength doesn't shout, it doesn't boast, it simply breathes, it simply is. And it radiates from people who've learned that peace is not the absence of struggle, it's the presence of unwavering hope. Hope that no matter what tried to take you out, you're still here. Hope that even in your brokenness, beauty still blooms. Hope that the story isn't over, even if the chapter feels like it's closing. When you act as if nothing affects you, it's because you've anchored yourself in something deeper than circumstance. You've planted roots in places storms can't reach. You found a place inside yourself that nothing outside yourself can touch. And yes, some days will feel heavy. You'll feel the weight of what you've carried, the cost of your strength. You'll question if you're faking it, if you're only pretending to be okay. But hear this, you are not pretending. You are persevering. You are not emotionless. You are intentional. You've learned to filter your responses through wisdom, not wounds. You've trained your spirit to be still, even when your flesh wants to fight. This is not about denial, it's about discernment. It's about knowing when to speak and when to be silent, when to stay and when to walk away, when to push and when to pause. Acting as if nothing affects you is not about masking your humanity, it's about mastering your response. And that kind of discipline, that kind of inner authority, it changes everything. Because eventually life will try you again. The enemy will whisper the same old lies in a new tone. Insecurity will knock, hoping you've forgotten how far you've come. Doubt will slip into your thoughts, wearing a new disguise. But this time, you'll see it. You'll feel it, but you won't fear it. Because you've done the work, you've built the foundation, and now you don't flinch at what used to shake you. People will ask how you do it, how you keep smiling, how you keep moving, how you carry so much and still shine. And maybe you'll tell them, or maybe you'll just smile, because sometimes the explanation is sacred. Sometimes your strength is too holy to be dissected. Sometimes your calm is a testimony only heaven understands, and that's okay. You don't owe the world your scars. You don't have to wear your wounds like badges. You just keep walking, quietly proving what grace can do with a life that refused to give up. You learn that not everyone deserves access to the fullness of your story. Some things are too precious to share with people who only see your surface. Some victories are too personal to celebrate publicly. And that's the power of acting as if nothing affects you. It teaches you the value of sacred privacy, the art of carrying your victories in silence, not secrecy, the joy of growing in hidden places, the glory of becoming in the dark, far from the noise and the gaze of those who only applaud what they understand. And when they come for you, because they will, when they question your calm, your silence, your strength, remember this: you don't have to respond. You don't have to defend your peace. Your fruit will speak for you. Your life will be the answer. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be faithful, to be healed, to be whole, So when the text goes unanswered, when the door closes, when the goodbye stings, breathe, let it go. Not because you're indifferent, but because you're aligned. You no longer chase closure from people who couldn't handle your truth. You no longer beg for clarity in rooms that never deserved your presence. You've learned that not everything lost was a loss. Sometimes letting go is the blessing. Sometimes walking away is the miracle. You begin to understand that peace is not passive, it's active. It's fought for, it's cultivated, it's chosen again and again, especially when the world offers chaos on a silver platter. Every time you choose not to retaliate, you win. Every time you choose not to explain yourself to someone committed to misunderstanding you, you gain ground. Every time you choose silence over vengeance, grace over bitterness, healing over validation, you step deeper into who you are becoming. Because peace is not pretending nothing happened. It's saying, yes, it happened, and I still choose joy. It's saying, yes, it hurt, and I still choose love. It's saying, yes, I cried, but I still choose to rise. That is the heart of true strength. That is the soul of unshakable resilience. Not immunity to pain, but immunity to surrendering your identity because of it. And somewhere along the way, your posture will change. Your voice will soften, not because you're weaker, but because you're stronger. You won't need to shout your worth. You won't need to prove your power. You will walk in such deep alignment with who you are that the noise will cease to matter. Your presence will become a declaration. Your peace will become a weapon. You'll find yourself surrounded by fewer people, but they will be your people. You'll no longer fear solitude because you've met yourself in the silence and realized you were never truly alone. You'll trust the process more, not because it's easier, but because you've seen what happens when you surrender to growth. You've seen the fruit of patience. You've tasted the joy that follows discipline. And when you act as if nothing affects you, what you're really doing is refusing to let the external determine your internal. You're choosing to protect the garden of your soul from the weeds of comparison, offense, fear, and distraction. You're saying, my peace matters too much. My calling matters too much. My future matters too much. And with every step, you're becoming more of who you were born to be. You don't owe your energy to everyone. You don't owe access to every hand that reaches. You've earned the right to be selective. You've earned the wisdom to discern who feeds you and who drains you. And you no longer apologize for choosing yourself. You no longer explain why you protect your peace. You simply do it because the healed version of you knows how sacred it is. There's a holy confidence in the way you rise now. It's in your eyes, it's in your silence, it's in the way you no longer chase what isn't for you. You're not desperate for belonging anymore. You belong to yourself. You belong to purpose. You belong to peace. And that kind of wholeness, that kind of presence, it's rare, it's powerful, and it cannot be faked. So when the world feels loud again, when the opinions grow thick and the pressure starts to rise, come back to center, come back to peace. Come back to that deep place inside where God meets you with stillness. Where your soul is reminded of what truly matters. Let the winds blow, let the waves crash. But remember, you are unshaken, you are unmoved, you are still. Because you've learned through pain and perseverance, through heartbreak and healing, that your peace is not situational. It is spiritual, it is divine, it is anchored in something greater than the temporary. You walk different now. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. You see clearer, you hear deeper, you feel wiser, and you know without a shadow of a doubt, nothing outside of you has the authority to dictate the peace within you. That is your power, that is your truth, that is your legacy. So act as if nothing affects you, not to impress, but to inspire, not to prove a point, but to stay on purpose, not to numb your heart, but to protect your spirit, because you are no longer moved by noise, you are led by vision. And the world The world will watch in wonder, trying to figure out how you keep rising, how you keep loving, how you keep healing. But you'll know it's because you decided. It's because you chose peace. It's because you chose you. There is a quiet strength in those who have suffered in silence and still found a reason to smile. The kind of strength that doesn't need to be loud to be real. The kind of strength that comes not from never falling, but from learning how to rise again and again when everything within you says, stay down. It's in this space between heartbreak and healing that you learn what it really means to act as if nothing affects you. Because it's not about denial, it's about discipline. It's about choosing to live from the inside out rather than the outside in. You start to understand that life will never ask for your permission to bring pain. It will never check to see if you're ready before it takes something from you. But you get to choose how you respond. And that is where your power lives. When you act as if nothing affects you, what you're really doing is choosing peace as your baseline. No matter what the world throws at you, you're saying, I have felt the sting of betrayal and I still choose to trust. You're saying, I have been knocked down by loss and I still choose to love. You're saying, I have been overlooked, misunderstood, underestimated, and I still choose to rise with grace. Because the truth is, some of the most powerful moments in your life will happen when no one is watching. When you're sitting in the dark, hands shaking, tears flowing, whispering to yourself that you won't give up, that you'll try again, that you'll keep believing in something better even when the evidence tells you otherwise. And those moments, those unseen, uncelebrated, raw moments are the ones that shape you into someone who no longer needs to prove anything to anyone. They forge a new fire in you, not one that consumes, but one that warms you from the inside. You learn how to hold space for your pain without letting it take residence in your spirit. You learn how to walk through grief without letting it define you. You learn how to let anger visit, but not let it unpack and settle in your heart. And above all, you learn how to sit with yourself in the silence, in the stillness, in the sacred, and know that you are enough as you are. So when people look at you and wonder how you remain unbothered, how you stay composed when others unravel, how you carry so much with such grace, let them wonder. You don't need to explain the depth of your inner work. You don't need to justify the wisdom you've earned through suffering. Your very presence becomes a testimony. Your peace speaks louder than any explanation could. And when you move through life with this kind of strength, it confuses people who still believe power must be loud, reactive, and aggressive. But you've tasted a deeper power, one that flows in gentleness, one that shows up in restraint, one that walks away from what is beneath you, not because you're weak, but because you've outgrown the need to entertain chaos. That is maturity. That is freedom. You begin to realize that acting as if nothing affects you doesn't mean you've become emotionless. It means your emotions no longer drive your decisions. You no longer respond from a wounded place. You respond from a healed place, or not at all. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing, to pause, to let the noise pass like a wave while you remain grounded on the shore of your truth. And when your past comes knocking, as it will, when old habits try to resurrect themselves, when familiar pain resurfaces to test your growth, you meet it with something new. Not anger, not fear, but understanding, compassion, wisdom. Because you now know that your past is not your prison. It was a process, it was preparation, and you are not who you were. You have evolved. Your energy changes when you realize not everything requires your presence. Your self-worth is no longer tied to being chosen, included, or understood. You stop chasing what isn't chasing you. You stop watering what doesn't nourish you. You stop explaining your value to those who only see you through the lens of their own limitation. And in this sacred space of surrender, something beautiful happens. You become whole. Wholeness doesn't mean perfection. It means you've made peace with the parts of yourself that once made you feel broken. It means you've stopped abandoning yourself to be accepted by others. It means you've chosen to be loyal to your soul, even if it means walking alone for a season. And that kind of loyalty, that kind of alignment, it draws the right people, the right opportunities, the right energy to you without force. You realize you are no longer surviving, you are thriving, even in silence, even in solitude. Because you no longer need chaos to feel alive. You no longer need the chase to feel valuable. Your validation is internal. Your compass is spiritual. Your guide is peace. And peace is not passive. It is intentional. It is active. It requires a daily decision to release, to forgive, to let go, to trust. It requires you to look at your own reflection, even on the days when you feel inadequate, and say, I am still worthy. I am still chosen. I am still here for a reason. That is the declaration of someone who has walked through fire and come out refined, not reduced. Let the world keep running after noise, after attention, after empty applause. You stay rooted. You stay grounded in your own spirit. You know the cost of your peace. You know the journey it took to get here. You're not about to let anything pull you back into a version of yourself you work so hard to outgrow. And when life tests you, when circumstances poke at your patience, when people question your silence, remind yourself, my peace is worth more than this argument, this drama, this reaction. When you act as if nothing affects you, you are honoring the space between stimulus and response. You are reclaiming your authority over your own energy. You are reminding yourself and the world that you are not a puppet to be pulled by every string of opinion and pressure. You move with purpose now. You move with clarity. And even when you feel fear, you don't let it decide. Even when you feel doubt, you don't let it lead. You have learned to sit with hard emotions without becoming them. That is emotional intelligence. That is spiritual growth. That is the fruit of choosing peace over performance. Your character is no longer built on how you appear. It's built on who you are when no one is looking. And who you are now is someone deeply anchored, deeply aware, deeply resilient. Not because you haven't been shaken, but because you refused to stay broken. And when you meet others on their journey, people who are still learning to quiet their soul, to trust their intuition, to let go of what wounds them, extend grace. Remember that you too were once reactive. You too were once triggered by every voice but your own. Let your peace not only protect you, but guide others. Be a safe place by becoming one. Let the overflow of your inner work touch those around you, not through force, but through presence. Because peace is contagious, so is healing, so is hope. And even if the world never fully understands the calm you now carry, that's okay. You didn't walk this path for applause. You walked it for your life, for your mind, for your heart, for your purpose. So continue to walk like the warrior you are. Quiet, steady, bold in spirit. Walk like your peace is non-negotiable. Walk like you know who you are, whose you are, and what you were created for. And if the storm comes again, and it will, let it find you standing. Let it find you rooted. Let it find you still smiling, still hoping, still loving. Because when you act as if nothing affects you, you are not becoming less human. You are becoming more whole, more grounded, more free, and that is the greatest victory of all. There is a moment, subtle but sacred, when you realize that silence doesn't mean absence, it means presence. A deeper kind, a stillness that speaks volumes, the kind that doesn't need to announce itself because it is enough just by existing. And in that silence, you discover what it means to be truly unaffected by what used to unravel you. Not because you've become numb, but because you've become rooted. There's a difference. Numbness disconnects you from life, but being rooted, that anchors you in the middle of it. When you choose to act as if nothing affects you, you are not hiding from the world. You're not pretending everything is fine when it's not. What you're doing is protecting the sacred space within you, the place where your peace lives, where your joy is cultivated, where your purpose breathes. You are choosing not to let the temporary shake the eternal, not to let external voices drown out your internal knowing, not to let every comment, every opinion, every emotional wave dictate your direction. And that takes strength. It takes maturity. It takes a quiet kind of courage that doesn't always get celebrated, but it's the very thing that keeps you standing when everything else feels unstable. Because life won't always slow down for you. People won't always change. The world won't always applaud your restraint. But you will know deep down that you are walking in integrity, that you are no longer trading your peace for performance, your truth for acceptance, your stillness for validation. There will be days when the temptation to react will rise in your chest like a storm. When something someone says or does triggers that old version of you that used to need to defend, to prove, to explain. But you will pause, you will breathe, and in that breath, you'll remember who you are now. You'll remember the cost of your growth. You'll remember that just because something touches you doesn't mean it has to move you. You are allowed to feel it, acknowledge it, even grieve it, and still not let it change your direction. Because you have become a guardian of your own peace, a steward of your own soul. You've stopped outsourcing your worth to things that shift like sand, and now your foundation is rock, not built on applause, not built on control, but built on trust in yourself, in your process, in something greater guiding you forward. Even when the path is unclear, you realize now that peace isn't found in the absence of conflict, but in the presence of clarity. Clarity about what matters, clarity about who you are, clarity about what you will and will not allow into your sacred space. And when you live from that clarity, everything changes. The conversations you entertain shift. The energy you allow near you becomes more refined. The way you show up, calm, clear, unapologetic, becomes your quiet revolution. People may misread your silence as weakness, your stillness as passivity. Let them. You no longer need to correct every misconception. You no longer need to explain your boundaries. Your energy will speak for you. Your alignment will protect you, and your peace will be louder than their noise. Because now you know your peace is not fragile. It is not a luxury. It is a necessity. It is sacred. And you are no longer willing to abandon it, not for a moment of revenge, not for temporary satisfaction, not for the illusion of being right. You've lived that life before. You felt the emptiness it brings, and you've chosen a new way, a higher way. And this way, it's not easy. It requires self-awareness. It demands discipline. It calls for daily surrender, but it's worth it. Every single time you choose peace over pettiness, clarity over confusion, growth over comfort, you rise. You become more of who you were meant to be. And you begin to taste the kind of freedom no one can give you and no one can take away. That's the beauty of it. This kind of strength isn't borrowed, it's built quietly, patiently, in the secret place when no one sees, when no one claps, when no one understands the cost, but you do. You've counted it, and still you chose to rise. Still, you chose to keep your heart soft, your spirit open, your posture surrendered. Because you know the truth now. Nothing outside of you is worth losing what took so long to find inside of you. Not a relationship, not a job, not a conversation, not a moment. You've become a sanctuary, and you treat yourself like one, with reverence, with grace, with discernment. So let them wonder how you do it. Let them try to provoke a version of you that no longer lives here. You don't need to go back to who you were to prove who you've become. Let your evolution speak for itself. Let your peace preach for you. Because real power doesn't need to perform. Real confidence doesn't chase. Real healing doesn't compete. It just is. And when you carry that kind of energy, the right people will find you. The right doors will open. The right peace will remain. You won't have to force it. You won't have to beg for it. You'll simply walk in it. You've already done the hard part, surviving. Now you're learning how to thrive, how to choose yourself without guilt, how to hold your boundaries with grace, how to be fully present, fully alive, and fully anchored no matter what comes. So keep choosing peace, keep choosing truth, keep choosing to act as if nothing affects you, not because you're pretending, but because you're protecting. Protecting what's sacred, guarding what's real, honoring what's been healed. And in doing so, you are creating a life that doesn't just look good, it feels good, a life that is rich in peace, rooted in purpose, and radiant with presence. You are not untouched, but you are untouchable. You are not unfeeling, but you are unfazed. You are not unaffected, you are unshaken. And that is the kind of power that nothing and no one can take away from you. So now, as you stand on the other side of everything that tried to break you, understand this. Your calm is not weakness, it is wisdom. Your silence is not retreat, it is restraint. Your peace is not passivity, it is power. You have learned the sacred art of mastering yourself, and in a world that thrives on chaos, that is revolutionary. You are no longer moved by what doesn't serve your soul. You are no longer defined by what you've been through. You are led by something deeper, stronger, unshakable. So keep your head high, keep your spirit grounded, let them wonder, let them question, let them talk. But you just keep walking with grace, with clarity, with power, because acting as if nothing affects you isn't pretending. It's proclaiming that you are no longer a prisoner to anything that isn't aligned with your purpose. And when peace becomes your posture, nothing and no one can pull you out of position. Stay there. That's your victory. That's your power. That's your truth. Let it lead you forward. Always.